Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this next episode, the final episode before I go on maternity leave. I'm here with two very wonderful and lovely and special people who I hold very near and dear to my heart, Casey and Sydney. Sydney is my cousin on my dad's side, and Casey is her fiance. So thank you guys so much for being here. This is going to be a really cool conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So today's kind of topic is something that is super relevant for all three of us, and my husband as well, in that we've sort of all started a healing journey that's been really significant and impacted our relationships, in particular, our romantic relationships with one another. And so today I kind of want to give my community a little bit more insight on that experience of watching your partner go through the healing journey, being in a partnership where maybe that the things that they're healing have affected us as their partner, and just different ways to support one another and recognizing that this journey is not linear and but there's ways to maintain resiliency together, and there's definitely ways to figure out why or why not it's worth it to stay in a relationship. Yeah. So I just want to hear first, like, your guys' falling in love story so we can get an idea of who you guys are. So just however you met and when you started dating, how long you've been together, all that good stuff.
Do you want to start?
You start.
No, I like your version better. You tell it.
I was closer friends with her brother, her younger brother. We met at a park. We were playing sand volleyball.
My brother. You met my brother at the park.
Yes.
It just so happens they were at the same park at the same day.
Yeah, looking for like a pickup game of sand volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started hanging out more and more. And as we would hang out at this house, hang out at that house, hang out at this house, Sydney was at Brody's house, which is her brother's name. And I was like, oh, who's this? And like obviously there's that, your friend's older sister, like off limits sort of vibe, which
Right.
made it like, oh, like off limits is my specialty.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And yeah, it just kind of evolved from there.
Mm-hmm. We've been together since I met him when he was 17. So we're going on 9 years now.
I'll be 27 in May.
And the funniest part is that my brother was like, out of all the guys you can date, you can't date him. And I was like, well, that's kind of funny because he's the one I wanted. And so that was kind of a fun little rocky thing that we went through at the very beginning.
Yes.
Where he didn't approve with him, and then
super didn't approve.
Didn't approve, and then we went on a mutual friendship or a trip with our friends, and my brother brought him, and then I brought my friends, and at the end of the trip he texted me. He's like, I want to make it work the right way this time. And so at the end of the trip, he sat my brother down. It's like, can I date your sister? And then from there, my brother was like, well, you did it the right way this time, so now I approve.
Fair. Yes. Brody, obviously my cousin too. He has a very protective tone to him. He's definitely a very stoic person. We love him all so much. He's such a unique individual, and I love everything about that whole situation, because if you know Brody, you're like, of course, that's exactly how he would respond to that situation. And now with your younger sister too, it's, I think, very much the same kind of vibe, probably.
And now he calls me brother. So like we have fully evolved. Like we have, I think it's made our friendship like closer and tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've earned all that I've needed to earn, and I've shown like, hey, I am going to treat your sister properly.
I'm worthy of it.
Yeah, I'm worthy, because there's no one I see better for her.
Yeah, now he gets it after all this time.
Yeah. Well, and again, fair, but that's really beautiful. I met Casey in my garage with Brody, because Brody and I would hang out quite a bit in like the end of year, and we'd be around, chilling, smoking weed, and like it was so funny because when I first met Casey, I was like, oh, okay, like another person, whatever, very nice, very chill. I thought you were just like super cool. I was like, oh, people want to hang out with me. That was like my mentality in high school. And so hanging out with you, I was like, this person feels like he's going to be in our family for a long time. And I didn't really know at the time why I had intuition like that, but you just felt like you were going to be in our family for a long time. And here we are. You guys are engaged. You guys have been together almost 9 years. Josh and I got together just a year after you guys. So it's easy. I remember your guys' years because it's not far off from mine.
Yep.
So when in your relationship did you guys start to recognize sort of like these patterns within yourselves or your partner where you were like, this is not meshing, like this is not clicking, something's off? Because in every long-term relationship that happens at some point, right? We are in partnerships to sort of expand and evolve. They're going to be mirrors for us. They're going to reflect a lot of our wounds and our triggers. At what point did you guys, really start to recognize that? And what was there a specific event or a specific conversation that brought about your individual healing journeys?
Yeah, I'm going to pass the torch to you because you came pre-programmed with self-awareness of feelings and oddities and ickies where you had to teach me all of those things.
Well, the very first thing that I remember is at the very beginning of our relationship. Because I had previous relationships and my mom taught me you communicate. Like I'm probably an over communicator. And so my previous relationships, the reason why I think they failed was because I would put out communication and try to like work on things and grow, and they weren't ready. But so then Casey, the very, very, very beginning, I don't even think we called each other boyfriend and girlfriend yet, but you weren't making me a priority. It was just felt like I was just like a spur of the moment, like, hey, want to hang out? And I was like, nah, this doesn't fly with me. So I sat you down and I was like, and I was fully willing to be like, all right, I'm done. Cause I was just tired of like guys not being thoughtful and like considerate of me. And like that's what I wanted. I was like, I need this like full send. I want the relationship that I deserve. And so I sat down and I was like, hey, think of me like I just kind of explained everything that was going on. And he immediately cried, which was like, to me, I feel like tears, like that's like, I mean, you have to be crazy if you're going to fake tears. I was like, well, okay, he's showing me the side of his heart. And so that is like this precious little like moment. I'm like, okay, there's more in him than just he doesn't care about me. He's focused on this stuff. And so I feel like that kind of opened the door.
Yeah.
I think okay, well, if you want to be with me, you have to tell me these things because I want to support you in that, but you need to let me in on that. Cause like, I don't know. I just think you don't care about me. And I think that you're not paying attention to me when really you're over there. Like you were freaking out about your dad was possibly going to move. There's like so much going on in your life. You just graduated high school. You didn't know what you want to do with your life. So I think that was the first step. And then he every kind of time I gave him a chance to like, hey, what's going on? He would open his little heart door a little bit and give me something.
She was like an archaeologist and I was like a geode, and she was slowly cracking the hard exterior to get into the gem.
That's an amazing analogy. I absolutely love that.
I love crystals, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's perfect for you guys, actually. I love that. And that's such a major point too, is like when your partner isn't ready and they're not letting you in, it is because there's something deeper going on. It's not you. I think so often, well, especially when we're in young relationships, we think, well, I'm doing something that's making them that way. It could be, and it goes both ways. It's not just girls going to guys that way, or guys going to girls that way, or guys and guys going that way, whatever. It's that that compassion has to be mutual, right? If you're coming to your partner with something and you're saying, hey, this is hurting me, this is not making sense to me, I want to understand you. And they're all the way back here, like, I don't even want to understand myself because this is too much. And I don't know. I don't know. I can't give you answers because they genuinely don't know. We have to have compassion for them. So I love the approach that you took, Sydney, which was like looking at it as like, this is a little heart that is feeling a lot, that is holding and carrying a lot. And if I want to step into this person's life and ask for things, they also have that right. And I need to respect that time and space that it takes for them to open up. Because as we all know, just because you love somebody doesn't mean that they know how to love you, that you know how to love them. And this goes beyond love languages, right? Like that's a huge, huge piece of it for sure. But like, I think that's something we could even touch on is love languages. I know for you, Sydney, yours is more like acts of service, right? And for Casey, it's more physical touch. That's very similar to Josh and I. Um, I'm not innately, right? Like I receive love from like words of affirmation and quality time and acts of service. So my natural innate instinct is to do those things for other people too, right? Because I know
Right.
how good it feels. But that's not going to be received the same way. So
Yeah.
it's kind of about recalibrating, right? Like these check-ins you were doing with him, it was like, okay, we need to recalibrate. We need to reassess where we are and why there is this disconnect. But with that compassion and really understanding
The
it
most,
and sorry,
the most compassion.
the most compassion you can have. So that's a good question
Like,
that you brought to my mind is how do you do that? What was that process like for you on both ends?
Well, and I just want to note that yes, so because I grew up in a household where all my feelings were heard. I was very, very safe in my feelings and anything that was going on in my life. And he grew up in a household where it was the exact opposite. And no fault to anybody, but his parents just didn't know how. And
Yeah.
so I looked at him like, holy crap, like you have no idea what this is like. So I don't know, I guess it's just my natural, just I looked at it from that lens and filter of dang, like he didn't get what I got. And so he needs that. And so that helped me. But then the other thing, I think that you were very compassionate. And I guess this just came natural to like, okay, Sydney's struggling with how I'm acting. And like, you weren't, you would fight me sometimes. Like, and I feel like it's still your natural instinct to like fight me. But I'm like, when I call you out on your shit, that's just the way it goes. But like, I think you've had a lot of compassion towards me in the opposite realm of like, okay, she's struggling. How I'm acting right now is making her feel some type of way. That's been a huge part of this. And I don't think that because my compassion can only get us so far. I think it was you understanding, like, oh, okay, she's had big feelings about what I just did. Let me go figure out why I did this so this doesn't happen again. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like that was a huge part of it that no other partner had given me before, I think.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but how did you do that? Do you,
Um, I don't know. I honestly don't. I just did it. I'm a very like I'm only recently starting to discover my own path and leadership styles, like of myself to lead myself.
Mhm.
Whereas, okay, she wants me to do this, I'm going to do this because one, I want to be a better person. Two, it makes my life easier when her life isn't so stressful because I'm being a shithead. And like in a positive way, not like a yes man way, not like
Right.
a fraud way, but like a geez, it doesn't need to be this difficult. Clearly, what I'm doing is not just because I've been doing it this way doesn't make it right. So like let's dissect this. Let's try to figure out what it is that I can do better. And then in the end, it's not like I was doing it for rewards, but I was rewarded in the way of I got closer to her. She
Mhm.
felt safer with me. So she then was able to take care of other things within myself that I still didn't even know about. So it was like this ever evolving like machine that's like, oh, this one cog is missing a tooth. But I just rebuilt the tooth. Oh wow, now it's flowing a little bit smoother. So then we just kept doing it and I just kept doing it. And like I don't know, I like to have a peaceful life. And when I realized that I was the one causing, like, I was the one disrupting my own peace, essentially, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, let's work on it. Like, let's not do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, it takes time to recognize those things, right? We don't like somebody doesn't tell us something and then we immediately get it and get how we're a part of that experience. And it kind of reminds me of like a few things that you guys mentioned that I want to kind of point out is like understanding your partner's childhood is a big piece of having a really truly authentic, deep, loving and compassionate relationship because you have to know the foundation that this person is working from. And it's
yeah,
not to say, okay, well, you had this experience and this is how you are. That's not it at all. This is how you are right now. Do you want to continue being that way or do you want to be different? And when
Yeah.
that person makes that decision that they want to be different, not just for the sake of being in this relationship, but because they recognize how much it will help them be who they really want to be for themselves, in their careers, in their other friendships, just in general, like you said, feeling more peaceful, then it really starts to happen. And the catalyst is no longer your relationship. The catalyst is this drive and this motivation within yourself to reach that higher plane of like, I got this, like I'm okay. And I'm allowed to feel these things and process these things and recognize these things. I'm capable of it more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm able to transform it and transmute it into something positive. And another thing too that I love you mentioned was that you, in essence, you trusted that Sydney was telling you the truth about her experience of you. And I
I knew
think,
she was smarter than me.
yeah,
I knew from day one. I was like, she gets it. I don't. I'm gonna listen.
yeah. Well, and I think we're like in our partnerships, there's a lot of balancing acts happening, right? Like one person will tend to be a little bit more this way, that way, this way, and then the balance is this person's a little bit more this way, this way, this way.
Totally.
This person's not this way, so this person is, this person's not, vice versa. But that's something really, really beautiful is that your love, you allowed your love to flow through your heart so much so that you trusted that the experience that she was having was real and it was not something that you wanted to continue. So you were very in touch with your heart pretty quick there, even if it wasn't like language wise coming through.
I
You
know
were
from experience,
Yeah.
like
right.
here for sure.
Yeah.
Right. And that's so incredible because so often in this society, I mean, we all know this, men are treated very differently than women and vice versa, but it's like you guys are not built physiologically to live in the emotion center, which is why women are. There's that balancing act, but we all live between our wise mind and our emotion mind, and in the middle ground is the middle way, and that is the integration of the two. And so as partners, we kind of push and pull through that spectrum together, and we push
Yeah.
and pull each other to find that balance and find that peace together, right? Um, so I think that that's just a really beautiful piece of who you are, Casey, is that you are a man that shows up in this world connected to his heart. And that's something that really needs to be honored and respected. You also mentioned safety, and you also mentioned recognizing that you were kind of you were kind of serving yourself the suffering, right? And I can very much relate to that. Just in general, like, I didn't believe in happiness. I didn't genuinely think people could be as happy as they were because I didn't feel that. I didn't experience that for some time, not just because of my bipolar, but just because of my life experiences. So when I got in a relationship with my husband, obviously at the time boyfriend at 18 years old, um, there was a lot of times where he was like, I just don't get it. I just don't get why you're stuck in bed and why you feel these ways and why it's so hard for you. And um, he's like, I want to. He's like, I'm here for it. Obviously, we've been together 8 years now, so he stuck through it. But that's because I did the work, right? And it's really hard to go from that dark place to doing the work if you don't have support around you. Um, but that support can't be the reason. Yeah. So my question is, how did you recognize that it was safety that she was seeking from you, like emotional safety and the ability to rely on you? Like, was that Sydney saying that to you, or was that something that you came to realize?
No, well, a mix of both, but it
Yeah.
was 100% she had mentioned that I don't feel safe to X, Y, and Z. I don't feel safe for this. I don't feel safe for that. And I was like, well, fuck, I don't want you to not feel safe. Like
Mhm.
that's a terrible place to be. And if I can work on making that, again, it just comes down to like if she's unsafe, feeling unsafe, there's no room for me to feel safe either. So like
Right.
we both have to be there for it to work. And I was like, well, damn, like this is my life partner. Like this is who I don't want to go anywhere else in life ever again. Like I need this to be solid. Like I'm going to put other humans on the planet with this human, and I can't bring those people into an unsafe environment, let alone let her still be there. So I need to warrior my shit up and make this place
Mhm.
safe for us.
Yeah. What were those things that, if you don't mind sharing, Sydney, what were the things that you were feeling unsafe about? Like, um, and we don't mean safety as in like your physical safety, obviously, but what were some of those things that you were asking for more feelings of peace and safety in?
Um, well, for the very beginning of our like the first, because I kind of look at our relationship of we won't go into details about it, but before he came clean to me about some stuff going on in his life, and then after it's kind of like
BC
BC AD.
before clean.
That's awesome. Yep, yep, I get that. I get that.
But so in the first part of it was, and I think that this almost was like part of the catalyst of like we everything that led up to you coming to me and sitting me down that day and like being like, I need to lay this all out for you. I think kind of brought you to that point where you're like, all right, if we're gonna take our relationship to the next step, I have to, if I want to heal more, all that. But so in the very beginning, it was more just like, talk to me, tell me what's going on with you. And I guess it's still the same afterwards, but afterwards it was more like you kind of dropped a bomb on me. And so it was more like, all right, you know, because he'd been keeping secrets from me and things. And so there was parts that was like, all right, well, the first half of our relationship was he was lying to me, but it also kind of made sense like, oh, this first half of our relationship, he was like battling these demons. So I was,
Yes.
you know, so it's almost like it kind of, in a way, in the weirdest way possible, was like, I don't know how to say it, but wow, okay, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, right, right.
It's almost like, hell yeah, let's go. You know, you let all that out. Now we can really like go further into like our growth as humans together as a relationship, but also like individually, which is like the whole my most favorite thing about you is that we work on it continuously.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm going off track, but like that, the safety really was just honesty and um,
Showing up.
showing up for me too. Like when I'm having
Yeah,
feelings, I feel
yeah.
like because there's a lot of, he came with a lot of baggage, let's just call it. And so I was a lot of the times making you feel safe. It's like, but then there's times where it's like, okay, I'm having big feelings about something that has nothing to do with you. Can you help me?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Something else that we really worked on. Um, and then you not taking my feelings personally. There's like a lot of that. It's just allowing each of us, it's just a flow of like allowing each other to feel and then holding space for those feelings is really where the safety, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. I agree so much. Similar to you guys, Josh and I have a very similar story where it's like, I feel like the beginning of our relationship was all the things. It was all the lovely things, right? And very genuine and all of that. We have a very deep connection. It's really weirdly cosmic at times. We have like he'll be singing a song in his head. I will not hear him sing it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I singing this in my head? And he's like, well, that's what I was singing in my head. So I'm like, okay, we have weird telepathy, like crazy moments like that all the time. And so, and for you guys too, it's a very deep love, which is why there was this continuous draw towards each other to work. Um, because oftentimes it's like, that's being in these relationships, these really significant soul contracts, almost soul binding experiences, is really where we're led on to our expansion in a lot of other ways. But I relate to that half and half feeling, that BC and that AD. Is that how you say it? Yeah. Split between, when Casey's walls came down, when Josh's walls came down for me. And it was like a bomb being dropped on us, right? Like we were like, whoa, like this is like a whole side of you that I didn't even know existed. And I really wish, like, I wonder if you felt this way, Sydney, is like, I really wish you just would have told me, because like I would have been here for it back then. Like I could have helped to support you so much sooner, right? But that's not the timeline that was necessary for them. It had to happen when it did. So we accept that and we move forward as best as we can. And also that wall that's up, whether you're a man or a woman, whatever type of relationship you're in, if you have a wall built up that your partner isn't, slowly working at, or that you are not slowly working at to share with your partner, it's going to block any forwardness that you guys want to have together. It's going to become a major block in your ability to connect with each other. Because as we all know, your depth of love for other people is only as depthy as it is for yourself.
Yeah.
And
When I
yeah,
started like once that I did take down my own walls, like and now looking back on it, like it withheld me from loving her so much. Like how I feel about her today is I'm pretty sure how she felt about me from the very beginning. But I couldn't let myself do that because of all the shit that was like,
yep,
talking here because of all the other shit going on.
yep.
And like now, like I've never felt closer. And I wanted to say that earlier too. My I swear like I've never fought this hard for something.
Mm,
Even before I was like, why am I fighting so hard? But like every like my soul, pieces of my like being kept me fighting forward, like do better, do better. When up here is like, ah, fuck it, who cares,
right,
like, but
right.
then my body didn't match that. I was like, why do I keep, and like now I know why, because this is my goddamn twin flame. This is my soul partner. Like this is who
Yep.
we're like, make world changers together, return to the cosmic beings together, like all of the
All of
above.
it. All of
Yeah.
it. Absolutely. And I see that in you guys so clearly. When I started doing meditations with you, Sydney, a couple years ago, it was like I could feel this major, major, major heart. Like your heart was palpitating open, like for everything and everyone. And there was no boundary with that, which is a beautiful part of you, right? Like you are this really loving, really compassionate, like you will have the conversation till the cows come home because you really give a shit and you care. And that's beautiful. And I'm the same way. I will talk to you for 8 hours if that's what it takes.
That's
And when we meet our people and they're like, they're as much as it scares them, I think a little bit, as much as it intimidates them, it draws them in because it's that person who's also going to help us manifest our expansion and our alignment and our healing journey at different points and different phases. So I love to hear that from you, Casey, because I see that in you guys. I feel that in you guys, and it makes me excited because I don't have very many really close friends or people that I relate to so deeply as I do with you guys. So I love that. Something I wanted to fall back on was the safety thing, only because I heard this from somewhere, something, someone. And it's that your caregivers, so your parents or whomever raised you essentially the most, they start out as our main trusted support person, obviously, right? Like we innately trust that they're going to guide us down the right path, that they're going to keep us safe, that they're going to provide to us. And when we become adults and we get into a relationship, that cord is almost like cut and reattached to the person we're with, especially if it's in this like really deep, really cosmic, beautiful relationship, where the love is super genuine and real. And so when we are with this person for a long time, and then all of a sudden there's this like jolt back of like, whoa, wait, hold on. Like, I don't feel safe in my own body. So I don't know how to feel safe, how to make you feel safe. Um, it's debilitating. It's the same, on your nervous system and your brain, it's the same experience as if a parent leaves you alone in a room for like a whole day. It destroys you from the inside out for a moment. So I'm curious, like when you guys were in the real deep dark shit of it, um, Casey, when you were like really feeling through things and like going through some of the events you had, some of the tragedies you had going on, and Sydney kind of the observing him in that experience, because obviously we know we've experienced a lot of tragedy in our life, and just death and grief. At what point did you ever have a point where you said, I don't know if I can do this? And how did you get through that point? And I mean that as an individual and then also you guys as partners.
Yeah, I think there were probably tons of it. Like it's just like fuck it. Like I'd rather just go, numb out, go numb
Mhm,
away somewhere. Like
mhm,
screw this. Like, this is a lot. What pushed me through it was probably just like the little voice saying like, "Don't be a bitch, don't
Fair,
bitch out, don't
fair.
be a bitch." Like, but at the same time, like there was more with a hair,
Yeah.
always. Uh, was also, I think, deeper than that too. Like, I think that little voice was being influenced by the rest of the soul, like trying to be like, we're going to translate it to Casey right now, which is don't be a
Mhm.
little bitch. But it's like,
Mhm.
hey, that's the best thing ever. And that's what you need in this life and that path. And that's what you want more than anything. You just are like afraid to accept it. Don't be a bitch. Like, get,
Yep.
get the fuck
Yep.
up and go take care of it. Um, yeah, I think that that's kind of where that, because I think everyone will feel that. It just may,
It's whether
again,
you listen to it, I
yeah,
think.
it's the translation if it hits right to you and if you listen, because
Yep.
sometimes it's hard to hear with everything going on. But
Yes.
I think that is one of my biggest things is that I always hear, like I'm always listening, even if it's falling on deaf ears or even if it's like I'm not like,
You can't tell you're listening, but you are.
yeah, like
Mhm.
it's always somewhere being heard and being stored in like the file cabinets, right? And
Archives.
the archives, and those are always being sifted through.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not like, I heard it and it didn't do anything for me then, it could be literally an hour later, 10 days, a year, 3 years later. I'm like, oh, I did hear that. All right, I get it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Let me act on it now. Yeah, absolutely. I love that you expressed it because the healing journey, you really do have to find your own language. That's so true. Not everything is going to hit you in that moment. And sometimes things just don't resonate at all. That's a huge piece of my story too, is like I've had to find what authentically matches with my healing journey and the things that I need to work through and like not looking at other people and thinking, well, they did this, so I'm going to try to do that too. And
Yeah.
actually choosing and deciding things that make sense for me realistically, practically. And Sydney, you're absolutely right. That little voice in all of us is our intuition. And unfortunately, people who have gone through a lot of traumatic experiences, even just one really severe one, that intuition gets shamed and it gets suppressed and it gets told that it's not right because
Yeah.
there's no room for it. That the people around us, part of our trauma, um, it it makes it seem as if our intuition is not to be trusted, when in reality, we know when something's not okay. We know when something is wrong. Um, and you
Yeah.
have to listen to that, right? And it's hard to listen to that when it's been shamed. And then it's hard to listen to that even more when you're in a state where you probably need to purge a lot from your mind to make space for that voice to come through. Um,
Yes. Great purging.
Well, I think for you too, I think where things started to change for you is when you started to trust them. Because you would fight me so hard in the beginning. I'm like, that person's bad news.
Yeah.
They're not a good influence on you for X, Y, and Z. There's a specific person, I'm not gonna say names, but that I'm like, now you're like, now today, you're like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but it was you for whatever, many reasons you would fight it. And then once you leaned into like, okay, this person doesn't make me feel good, or this situation doesn't make me feel good. Once you started to like trust, like deep down inside your gut, those feelings, I feel like
I
that's
trust
when,
you too.
well, yeah, but it's not I can tell you like, hey, I don't think this person's like the
Yeah,
right.
but your gauge, your family, you guys are cousins, right? This family is full of witches, just for everyone to know.
yeah.
They're, they're all intuitive witches, extra power beings, just FYI. Like she rarely,
That's
Sydney is
awesome.
rarely wrong on a reading of someone, and she's like, "Hey, bad fucking news," and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, they're the best fucking person ever." Like, let me show you.
Right.
I was like, "Ah, fuck, they were bad news." I told you that 30 seconds into meeting them. And I'm like, damn it. And that happened like so many times over and over again.
Point in your journey though is that,
Buddy.
like Floyd's point is that as a kid, you were taught almost like you're just screw your intuition.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So many things made you feel bad, and you were just like, whatever,
Ignore it.
ignore it. And like, and one of the other things is that even if it made you feel yucky inside, you didn't have anywhere to go.
No.
So
Yep.
you had to put up
Yep.
with it. So as I think part of your journey was trusting that and learning to trust it more and more and more versus like just putting up with it.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's like a huge
that
thing.
that trust in the unknown is a bitch.
Yeah. Well, yes, especially when your unknown so often was really scary and really uncomfortable and really damaging to you. Like, um, if we grow up with caretakers and whether you grow up with really great caretakers or not, at the end of the day, every parent is going to like fuck up their kid a little bit. That's just part of our reality. It has to happen. But there are people who choose to do that unintentionally or intentionally a lot more. And it's it's really hard to move from childhood to adulthood without eventually recognizing like, my foundation has a lot of cracks in it. And that's not because I'm a bad person or I'm a wrong person. It's just what's happened to me. And in order for me to be who I really want to be, I have to learn why this happened and how it affects me today and how it inhibits me. Um, and that takes a lot of work. It takes work. I think you guys might have some more perspective on this is like when you hear that, like doing the work, right? Um, what did that mean for you guys? Like what were the steps that you took to and Sydney too, what was your steps that you took and how do you keep listening to your intuition? Like why is that so innate for you? Do you feel that was part of your childhood so that was just normal for you? Also, I know because I know you. It is innate in you, but I just mean like how have you continued to trust your intuition? How have you continued to take care of yourself through this experience? And like what are the literal actions? Like was it therapy? Was it counseling together? Was it meditation? Was it, what were the things that helped you and continue to help you um, stay with your intuition and stay connected to your guys' hearts?
Well, with the first thing I'll say is that if you walked up to a random person on the street and you told them your partner comes to you and tells you X, Y, and Z, would you stay?
Mm-hmm.
I would say the things that we've gone through and the things that, he came clean to me about and stuff, I would say a normal person would be like, oh, F that, like, no.
Yeah, sure.
And so, like, just like instant, if you were just to take the facts, it was like, holy crap, like this was a lot, run. And it was like, but I saw, and this is where intuition is like huge part of it, is like every step of the way, like, but I see the heart underneath that, and the actions weren't you acting, it was your traumas, it was your darkness. We call it a darkness a lot. It wasn't who you were like in your heart and your soul. And so that was like, and I had to trust that. And it was very, very hard because it's like part of me like, holy shit, this huge betrayal, all this stuff. And then literally taking it day by day, like today feels really shitty and I'm just gonna let it feel shitty. I don't trust him today. I don't feel good today, but maybe tomorrow will be better. And I'm a very I like to plan my life. I like to plan things out. And I had to
Yep.
really become comfortable with not planning that. Like we had a wedding planned, we had things planned. It was like, all right, and I want kids. Like that's like I think like what I feel like I was put on this planet to do is be a mom. And like I can't wait to be a mom, but I'm like, and so part of me is like, okay, so when are we gonna get married? When are we gonna have kids? And like it's been my biggest struggle. Every time I talk to my mom about this, she's like, you don't know when that's going to be. You can't
Right.
control that. Like, let
Right.
go of that. Like, stop trying to plan that. And so, leaning into the side of just like surrender and trusting at each moment. And part of that is like, I'm a talker. So I think, and my mom, I think, is kind of like my therapist. And I talk to her about everything. Just talking
He's a
to
good
her.
one.
Yes. Talking to her has allowed me to process my feelings. And then what I've really learned is okay, you've processed it. Now move on from it. Otherwise, my brain will circle and circle and circle and I will obsess. And then it does nothing for me. So it's like learning to like turn off that obsessive worry, continuous thinking. I think it's been like my biggest tool, finding time to just like find a quiet moment, ground myself, do whatever I need. That's the only thing that has like kept me going. And I think, and then in those quiet moments, then I find like my peace and the truth in it all. And I'm like, all right, I can move forward another day. He didn't just, nothing bad just happened. I just feel maybe unsafe in this moment.
Yeah.
And like, so I there's nothing specific. I didn't like, it wasn't like I did hours and hours of therapy, but it was more just a commitment to every day just going with the flow and like letting it be what it was going to be. And there were times where I truly was like, if this doesn't if you don't take the next steps, or if he doesn't improve on this, this is a deal breaker for me. And every time I'd literally be like, Mom, I might end it today, you know, or I might end it this week if he doesn't fix this. There's so many times. I don't even know if I've told you that because I just didn't want it to influence you. But there's been so many times where I'm like, all right, I'm done. And then if he doesn't work on this, if we can't conquer this, then, and every time you've conquered it. There's very much so surrendering and letting go and just like, all right, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I hear from all that is like you just recognizing that this is his journey and there's only so much you can do to sort of urge or push people in the right direction. I love what you said, and I just want to reiterate it as like bullet points because I think it would be really helpful to anybody in a similar situation. And that is, you need to allow feelings to be what they are in the moment, to process them however you see fit, talking to a friend, talking to a therapist, journaling it, doing all of the above, etc. Somatic healing is really great for pent-up emotion also. Surrendering and acceptance. ACT therapy is really wonderful for when you're going through stressful situations like this where someone has hurt you or you're dealing with trauma. It's like acceptance commitment therapy. And so I love that you brought that up. And that commitment to flowing and being in the moment with things, not trying to project, well, what if this, what if that, what if this? What if it all works out, right? Like if we're going to think about how all the negative things could happen, we should definitely give ourselves the chance and the opportunity to see how it could all work out very well for us and how it could all have a really like a higher purpose that we can't see. And to your mom's point, we don't know our timeline of alignment. We don't know. I didn't know I was going to get pregnant 2 months after I got married. That wasn't a plan. I certainly didn't ever think I was going to get married. So, you know, these things happen and then we're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense for why it's happening now and why I'm right here. And I'm glad that I just let this happen. I also think people get a little confused about surrender and flow where they're like, okay, well, I just sit back and it's all going to happen. No, you still have to be the person and make choices and make decisions, but recognize when those decisions and those choices are like liberating you and bringing you peace and bringing you joy. And when the things you're trying to make choices about are bringing you strife and bringing you suffering and bringing you just discontentment. I love too that you said grounding and self-care, because a huge thing when our partners are going through a lot and we're supporting them often a lot, we forget to do it for ourselves, especially super compassionate people, especially super intuitive people. We literally forget to take care of ourselves so much. So really, really grounding inward and recognizing like, what does self-care mean to me? And being really just consistent as much as possible, doing that for yourself as much as possible, replenishing all of that love that you're giving out back to yourself, and having the recognition that every single human being on this planet has limits and boundaries with their love. There is an extent to which people can love another person. With Josh and I, that's kind of what was tested this last year is like, I've never questioned my love. And I think this is true for you guys. It's like, I've never questioned my love for you. I love you deeply, wholly through every ounce of your being and last drop of blood. Okay. Like that is not even a thought, but I can't love something that isn't loving me, right? That isn't showing up for me the right way. That is not self-preservation. That is not right. That is against my energetic integrity and my ability to show up for who I want to be, right? Because if I'm constantly in strife and I'm constantly stressing, I didn't do well in school my last semester because of it. I wasn't the mom that I normally was, you know, I was getting a lot more irritated. My bipolar flared up. Like we can't live in constant conflict or constantly be in the unknown, right? So we kind of have to step in and step out, step in and step out. So I love that you said I just kind of had to go through the days.
One last thing I want to say is the other just came to mind
is
also being the naturally like helping, loving, caring person I am. It was very hard for me to be like, all right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do this, 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 this. It's not my job to do that. Like I can make suggestions. I can hold your hand when you're crying. I can, but, and that was also something that we really struggled with too, is like, I love being his safe place, but that's not my job to be your safe place always. You have to find yourself. And that was something like we really struggled with. He loves to lay this massive head on me. And we always joke like,
Josh too. He has a big head.
yes, well, he's just this big guy. And so it's like, I have to be in the right space to be your pillow. We literally call it like, babe, I don't want to be your pillow today.
Yeah.
So that was like, so two things. One, like I had to really let go of control. And this was very hard for me because I didn't feel safe. So
Yeah.
how I felt safe was trying to control how he's
Yes.
healing. And it's like,
Yes.
that was the biggest thing. And my mom has been the sounding board of all this. If she's listening, she's gonna be like, yeah, that I needed to just let him, he has to find those answers himself. It's very easy from the outside looking in, like, okay, this person in your life made you feel this way. This person, he had to discover that himself.
Yes.
Otherwise, it wasn't going to resonate, which then he could heal from. So I could like point these things out, but to let go and let you find it on your own time was the hardest thing. Or being like, you need to journal every day. And he's like, I don't like journaling. And it's like,
Right.
okay, that's going to help you. And like, that's not my place to do that.
Right.
So I had to let that go. And then the other part of it too is that I can't always be your safe place. And so I had to have that boundary with you. And I think that was conflict for us because it's hard for me because I felt like I'm letting him down, but I'm like, I can't handle your emotions today. I have a lot going on myself. And then the way you kind of felt rejected, I don't want to speak for you, but that was kind of like tricky for us.
Yeah.
But was really, really serving because it forced you to find to be your own safe place. And like that was the most important part because we're very codependent, I would say, and we're working on that to this day. Like, and we live together, we both work from home. So it's like trying to find our independence and our own safe places. And I have to do the same for myself. He makes me feel so safe. And it's like, no, go just sit outside alone and I'll feel better versus like go find Casey and lay on him or whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like balance for sure with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I love everything you said because again, it resonates so deeply with Josh and I's story as well. It's like, it is really not your job to be the universal justice of this world and to be the universe's voice and to, direct people's healing, whether they want you to or not. It's really not going to work out. You can certainly plant seeds. I think that that's super important. And I think that's part of being in a partnership, right? Like your partner is your mirror and is there for a reason. But people kind of have to fall on their own asses to recognize, oh, this is really serious and this isn't going to go away and this is going to keep coming back and it's going to keep coming back worse if I don't just tackle the beast now. And I think too, something you guys mentioned in the beginning is like when you met Sydney, she kind of was like, she could like connect all the dots, right, with your childhood and like how that maybe is affecting you right now. And she was seeing how people were not treating you properly or, whatever, kind of in that realm. Josh was the same way. He did not know. He did not want to know. And these are his words, so I feel comfortable saying that. He didn't want to know or really recognize how bad it was for him growing up, like how painful his childhood really was and how hurt and neglected he was emotionally, physically even. And it's just like there was not enough space for him to ever discover that because everything around him was like collapsing in and telling him that he was, well, that's the way you experienced it, basically. It's kind of like that vibe.
Yeah.
Then here I come and it's like I've got all my shit. And then I'm like, yeah, but dude, this boop, 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 do you not see that? And so he felt safe enough. My point is he felt safe enough with me, same as Casey sounds like with you and you with him, to say, hey, this actually, I'm kind of like fucked up over this. And like, this really, really has damaged me in some way and has challenged my authenticity. More than anything for him, that's what we experienced in the beginning. And so there was this fight always happening. And this since has gotten so much better, but there was always this fight happening with the side of his family with him where he was trying to heal and he was trying to get validation from people who were not at all living in their authenticity or recognizing their part in his life and thinking that they, they did the right thing. And then also having a lot of issues with just, I think a lot of times when our caregivers hurt us, there's so much guilt and shame that the only way that they can protect themselves from that feeling, from how detrimental that is to put the wall up and say, yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It's almost like that. Um, but then
Far
when we find a person who makes us feel safe, and we're finally like unleashing that and unloading that, it's a hell of a lot to unpack. It's a hell of a lot to unpack, but we're so capable of doing it one little chunk at a time. And so that kind of reminds me. Oh, one other thing I want to say that I wrote down was be your own safe space. That is so hard for people who have had to be their safe space since childhood. If they didn't have the ability to run to their mom or their dad or their grandma or their aunt and say, I'm having a hard time right now, I don't know what to do, and then be received, not just I'm going to give you advice and I'm going to, hug you and love you, but the actual, it's in the side, the actual holding space for and recognizing and honoring and respecting that this person is in a state of, whatever state they're in, that feels difficult for them to get through. And so I think it's very resilient of the both of you to recognize that you have to be your own safe space, that you cannot rely on your partner to save you. You cannot rely on anybody to save you. That's your journey and that's your responsibility. And that kind of sucks also, right? Because it's like, these people hurt me. Why the fuck is it my responsibility to figure myself out? Like they shouldn't have done this to me and I shouldn't have to deal with this. But then we wouldn't be who we were meant to be. Right. So that's where the alchemization starts happening, is like our pain has a purpose. And I would love for you guys to share your little alchemizing quote that you kind of ground yourselves in and have used through your healing journey, and kind of explain how that came about.
I had a mentor when I came clean the second or third time, whatever it may have been, as life happens. And he just said that you have to bring your darkness to the light so that you can alchemize it into gold.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the more, and I've like evolved this a few different times into my own different, like with that, but it's bringing your darkness out and turning it, alchemizing it into gold.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the basis of it. But yeah, what it means to me is the more darkness you bring out to the light, the more alchemizing you can do, which means you can turn more darkness into gold and build your self wealth of like, look at all my gold bars of all these great things that I have fucking done. This is my wealth right here.
Yep.
I like to think of it also as like, you don't take the darkness out, it slowly is oozing out and poisoning you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's affecting you here, it's affecting you there, it's affecting you here, it's affecting you there. And like slowly, it will build up to a point where you're just a toxic person and you don't know why. Oh, it's because you're holding all your darkness in. You got to bring it up to the light, alchemize it into gold. And like, yeah, that is my favorite fucking thing because I'm like, oh yeah, check this out. New gold bar. Let's bring this shit out. Like, even though it's really fucking hard,
Yeah.
but so is forming, like, so is the whole smelting progress, like
Yeah.
process. Trying to literally turn a stone into a gold bar. Like, that's not easy. You need heat, you need pressure, you need fucking different tools and fucking whatever. Yeah. There's so many things that come into it to like make that process. That's exactly what I'm doing. It's not just gonna be like, oh yeah, here you go. No.
No.
Just
Yeah.
because I did that, like, okay, now it's the self-talk of love and not shame. It's the self-talk of like confidence and not hiding. It's like the self-talk of bravery and not fucking like, yeah, there's so much more into it that goes. But
Yes.
yeah, bring your darkness out and alchemize it into gold. I love it.
I love that so much. I love that so much. Sydney, how has that quote resonated with you and your experience of your guys' journey thus far, and watching Casey and yourself really dive into who you guys really are and who you want to be.
Um, well, I think I've told you this a few times, but for everyone who's listening to hear,
Mhm.
him coming clean to me and like about all the things that he's done and things he's going through has been the greatest, and he has a hard time with this, the greatest gift he could have ever given me, because it literally has allowed us to like conquer the dark, which then has allowed us to then, the dark's gone. The new dark comes, but it's gone. So then it allowed us this place to build such a beautiful like relationship. So I always look at it like him and I, where we are sitting right now, who we are, and like what we've built would not be here if he
Yes.
hadn't allowed us to conquer his darkness and shown it to me and said, all right, I'm gonna purge this, I'm gonna let go. So I think that was the scariest part for you, is like owning all your shit. Like that's hard, that's scary.
Yes. Yes.
He had the first time, you thought I was gonna leave you. But yeah, it's been the biggest blessing, and as ironic as it is, it was very painful, and it's been hard, and it still is hard. And like you really have a hard time, and I'm like, no, I would not take it back ever. And like, as crappy as it was, as hurtful as it was, as my physical body felt so yucky some days, and I just felt so gross. It's like you have to do that in order for like beautiful things to happen. And it's just like anything in life. There has to be light and darkness. They contrast each other. Without darkness, there's no light. Like, so it's what you choose to do with the darkness that like, I don't know. That's what's important. So I don't know. I just think it's the greatest thing ever. He I wish, honestly, in this whole world, I wish that there was more. I wish, and I hate to throw, men and women out there, but men aren't allowed this. They're forced to be tough. They're forced to, why are you crying? You're weak. There's so much, and it's like that has literally been what has made you one hell of a fucking man, because you can be in tune with, I'm having big feelings right now and I'm gonna cry about it. And then that has made you strong. That has made you such a freaking amazing leader. It's like it's allowed the masculine side of yourself to come out even more, because you can own the sensitive side. It's like this weird contrast, but like it has to happen. And I see it I see it in so many men. I'm like, if they would just give themselves like just like an hour of feeling and giving them their little sweet soul inside of them some love and like caring, and allow themselves to feel that, then they can show up as the man that they want to be, or you know what I mean? But I also and I also think that every person needs that person to help them, I don't know, feel safe. And I wish that more partners did this for their partner. But
yeah.
It's not the easy road. A lot of people don't choose that.
Yeah, but
Yes, and it is a choice. That's a huge thing. My thing in regards to everything you said is like the light and darkness are integrated. It's a co-creation of everything. We have to be in darkness to recognize how important the light is.
Yes.
And in being a light, especially somebody who like wants to work in the healing industry and that kind of thing, when you become a light, a lot of darkness flocks towards you. And that's kind of where you become somebody who transmutes it with others. Another collaboration, right? Or co-creation. And it's everybody on this planet is able to do that. Everybody on this planet is capable of being there and being a catalyst for someone. You don't know how powerful your words are, and how powerful little small actions and behaviors are. And that is the story of all people, is that we have this resiliency in us. It's, to me, I think it's probably connected to source consciousness, to God, to universe, whatever you call it. Like that part of us that just says, don't be a bitch, I'm going to do it. I had very similar language for myself when I was younger. It was like, I have to send this to you if I can find it. And I think it's in one of Josh's books, but it's this list that I wrote out like when I was probably like 19 or 20, and one of them is like, don't be a bitch. Like don't be a little bitch. Um, because you do have to gather up as much strength as you can to face the darkness and to say, I'm more than this. That's something that I wrote down, which was, you are not your trauma. You are not your pain, and you are not meant to live in constant suffering. Like that is not the world that we live in. Um, and as a side note, I think you guys would resonate with this as well, is like, if energy cannot be destroyed and only changed or transformed, then in the same sense, this darkness can only be changed or transformed into something else. Otherwise, it's just going to stay the same. So we have to choose to do something about it. And in our choice, we liberate ourselves from the experiences that we've had, and we become more than them, and we become more of ourselves because of them. I also like your honesty, Casey, around the fact that there's been a few times that you've had to come clean to Sydney about where you're at and all the things you're dealing with. And that, just proves the point that healing is not ever going to be linear for any single person. For example, I've been in recovery for, what did I just pass 7 years for my sobriety in March. And there are days when I'm like, well, I could just, go do something. And it's like, that's just the brain and the nervous way of testing to see, hey, did this stuff stick? Are we really still doing this? Are we really still this person? And then you choose in that moment, you say, yeah, I still want to be this person. So bye, goodbye. Have a good time. That was a nice thought. Moving on, or not a nice thought, but thanks for showing up. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yep.
And trusting in and nourishing your inner light is going to also take time. That is a skill that you have to learn to build up. It's like a muscle in your body that you have to work out through self-care, through different healing modalities, whatever works for you. I also love the oozing analogy. I think that's so important because our need for healing and our traumas and dramas and conditioning and programming, it's not going to show up all at once, like in a PDF form and say, here's this, right? Like that's not that's not how it happens. It slowly oozes over time. And that was my experience with Josh when he was this last year going through a lot of deprogramming, as I call it, where it was just, he was just so in himself. He was so in his own head and in his own shit. And so there was like there was no presence, right?
Yep.
Like there was no outward presence. And he has since come a long way, even in the short amount of time from last year to this year, which is amazing. But that oozing is so true, and it happens so slow, yet so fast. Like by the time you recognize how serious it's gotten, you're like, whoa, this has been happening. Like
Yep.
there has been moments in my path where this was my nervous system was trying to show me this because I had an anxiety attack randomly out of nowhere, or my partner was trying to show me this because they were doing some reflection work, mirroring with me. I also think too, the deeper you go, the higher you can climb, right? Like we all need to learn to accept ourselves as we are, of course, but we also can learn to accept that we're capable and we're resilient and we are not ever stuck in one form or another. That's just not how we exist, even on a biological level. Our cells are constantly changing, right? So let's give ourselves the chance. And I feel like between the two of you, you've given each other a lot of chances, not like excessive, well, it's okay, and blah, 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 blah. No, like you guys are like, no, here's the line, here's the trajectory that we're trying to work on together, that we're trying to be as parallel on it together. How are we going to do that? Like, what is my part in that? What is your part in that? And what is our together part in that? So I love that you guys have individualized your healing, because a lot of couples stay very codependent on that, and they stay very intertwined and like, well, if you're not doing this, then I'm not going to do it either. Or if you're doing this, then I'm going to do it too. So it also becomes, like you were saying, Sydney, it's like you kind of have to just surrender into what's real and right for you. Yeah. Yeah. This is a question I really wanted to ask you guys. How is love a verb for you? Like, in what ways have you guys shown up for each other in your hard moments and just day to day to like maintain your connection?
Well, I think that comes back to love languages for us. Um, I think obviously one thing is, I mean, we keep showing up for each other regardless of like what each other is going through, which, yeah, that's, that is like the baseline, I think, of our relationship. But then it's, take out all the junk, we still need to connect as like individuals and humans together. So I think it's love languages, I think, is really what we've dived into. And so like I have to be really conscious, like you said in the beginning, like touch is not my thing, but if he does something or conquer something or whatever, and I'm like, all right, I want to show him that like I'm really appreciative of this, or I
Yes.
will learn to be like, babe, great job. And like I have to mentally think of it. It's come more natural now because it's
Right.
like, okay, this is what, but I have to work on it a lot. Like, and you're just like, can you just touch me? And I'm like, sure.
I get that so hard. Yeah.
And that's also why we connected. I don't know, in the beginning of a relationship, I was really good at touching you, but it was also like we're trying to like win each other over
Sure.
at the
That's natural in the
beginning.
beginning.
But then I think, yeah, I don't know. And then you do the same for me. And I don't know. You don't know, how is it for you? Love is a verb.
Love is a verb to me because hers just so happens to be the most verbed one.
Yeah. And actual actions. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, actual actions. So for me, it's just like certain things. I'm like, oh, she has been mentioning this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take that action. And then she's like, what the hell? Like this, and I'm like,
And you're like, I know, it's so cool that I just did that.
yeah, very happy thing. And I'm just like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
it's but so to me, it's literally just going outside of the like day to day relationship couple shit. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this one extra thing. Like, I'm gonna do this one extra thing because that's what she wants, that's what she needs. And I'm still learning that. I'm a fucking
Of course.
ass.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't say that.
I'm not I'm not a fucking ass. I'm fucking ass.
No.
Like sometimes like I'm sitting there like so like you just said, so wrapped up in this, and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, ding dong, like
Hey,
knock
Dave.
knock. Like,
Love
but
that.
to me, it's just like, yeah, the verb to me is just, I'm gonna do this extra thing. Because and I'm not doing it for a reward, I'm not doing it for the accolades, I'm literally not doing it for recognition. I'm just like, this is what she wants. She wants to be loved this way, and I want her to feel my love. So yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Easy.
I think, and the bottom line is just, I always say love languages is just thinking of your person the way that they want to be thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's whether, so he wants me to think of him of like, oh, I want to like, he loves just any sort of like scratches or like whatever that makes him feel like, oh, she loves me.
I'm
Or
touching my hand over here
yeah, during the podcast he has his hand in my lap. So like I don't, I mean, like sitting here right now, I could care less about touching his hand, but I'm like, he likes this, and I'm really appreciative he's sitting here with me. So I'm gonna, I'm literally playing with his fingers.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just the act. It's just, to me, it's just taking that extra effort outside of yourself and showing them that you're thinking of them, I think, is the bottom
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. Totally. Josh and I, like I said, our love languages are very similar to your guys's. I think I'm a bit more scattered. Like I can get, and we all are, right? I don't want to say you guys are just these ways. Obviously, you can receive love other ways too. And for people listening, don't trap yourself in one love language because that's not who you are entirely. That's
Yeah.
super reductionist for such a complex being. And the other thing is too, is your love languages might change, right? So like in the beginning of the relationship, you might have really loved, going out to dinners and like having a nice meal and whatever. Maybe now your love language is, I want to stay home and watch a movie and snack on a bunch of random shit, like, so evolve with your partner is kind of also what I'm hearing a little bit of.
So
In terms of the verb of it, because our relationships are ever evolving, we are ever evolving, so we have to be open to that evolution, to be able to recognize even in this moment, oh, she told me about that, oh, I can just go do that right now, she's going to feel so loved. That makes me happy because I love this person and I want them to feel that love. And understanding and being thought of or being understood and being thought of is the highest forms of love in a relationship, in terms of what you can do action wise for them. Um, my last like big question really, and anything else you guys want to share, you're welcome to do that, is what advice would you give to somebody who's really struggling in their relationship, not to the extent of it being unsafe in terms of like, physically or anything like that. Um, what would your advice be for people who really do want to come together on this journey and do their individual healing? Um, yeah. What advice did you wish you had heard at the beginning, maybe even?
That thing you don't want to talk about, fucking talk about it.
Mhm.
That is that little violin, that little squeak, that little noise, fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
Bring it forward, talk about it. You're
You.
not, your partner is literally designed to help take on all of life's being with you, but don't like don't like just rely on them solely. You have to take their
Right.
part.
Right.
Well, to your point, if your partner's not holding space for that, I think,
Tell them.
that will tell them and get, that yes,
Sure.
and if you're willing to meet you where you're at, then maybe it's not the right place
Yes.
for that relationship. But yeah, because I just want to preface it because sometimes like I was in previous relationships where I'd come to them with things and they would not meet me where I was at. And I was like, all right, well, this is why we didn't work out. But
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
think the right partner will show up for you. And I think from my side of it, I would say ask questions and like don't to me it's I could have taken everything that he's done personally and be like, wow, he just doesn't love me, or he's
Yep.
just an asshole, or he's
Yep.
this. And a lot of times, the majority of the time, him being in a mood, him saying something that was out of line, or he for a week just was not showing up for our house or doing house chores, that the majority of the time is not just because he just doesn't care, it's because he had something going on in his heart or he was struggling with something. So to me it's always like, don't there's more to it, there's more depth, and if you can look at it from that perspective and then try to like approach it from that perspective, you can get further. Obviously your partner has to be willing to share it,
Yes.
but it's really helpful to me in general is just to not take it personally, because I did for a while be like, why are you such a jerk? You're just a jerk. And it's like,
Yeah.
nope, he just has big feelings.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's just trying to look at it from a different perspective. Just, and the majority of the time, the way people are acting, whether it's in a relationship or not, is not about you. It's really not. It's about
Mhm.
what that's going on in your head, their own head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't fear your partner. I think that has a lot of things to do with it too, is people are scared of the result of
The
saying,
reaction. Yep.
yeah, scared of like, hey, I actually don't like when you do this. Hey, I don't actually feel loved when you do this. I don't actually want to be doing this like that. Like whatever that looks like. Like, no, I actually don't like that music when you play it in the car. Like whatever the fuck it is, like,
Mhm.
but not giving your partner the opportunity to one, hear it out,
Mhm.
like let it be known, and two, react however it is. That's doing both of you guys and the relationship as a whole like such a disjustice, a
Yeah.
disservice. That's like what I think kills like so many things, because people are like, oh fuck him, he's just a piece of shit, or fuck she's crazy, and it's like, did you ever talk to her?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, like she's just crazy. I'm like, no, you just didn't fucking talk to her crazy. Like that you gotta
Yep.
meet them like where they
Yep.
are. That's another really hard thing, is like, yeah, that might not be your partner. You might
Right.
have thought they were, you might have thought that, and I'm not saying anyone listening
But
like,
that
oh shit, time to break up. Like, no, like try it first. If it doesn't work, maybe, but
Mhm.
even still, you can ask your partner to do these things, and if you need to give them time. It's not instant gratification. You need to give them time to adjust to these things, that because it's new news to them. They're like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, I didn't know that. And like rewiring, you said that once, like rewiring is so hard.
Yeah.
Like my initial reaction to her bringing stuff up used to be like, fucking,
Defense.
yeah, put them up defense. And now I'm like, I might still be defensive, but like within 30 seconds, I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that's what she's saying. Okay, yeah, fuck, that's me. That's on me. I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mean it like that. Like where we used to have like hour and a half long arguments or fights or whatever because I'm just sitting there so in where now I'm like, that's when I really started to realize the rewiring. I literally would take a deep breath and look at her and be like, that was my triggered self. I'm here now. I'm so sorry. Like, I hear
Mhm.
every word that you're saying to me. I'm embarrassed, number one, for what just happened. And she goes, don't be embarrassed. You're learning.
Yes,
And,
you're learning. Yes.
or she'll come to me after sometimes too, and she literally be like, hey, I didn't approach you very softly on that. I'm sorry. I know what that does to you. I'm going to work on that. And I'm like, ooh, woo. Like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah. Dude.
That's
Like,
it. Thing is
Yes.
understanding each other's triggers.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
had a certain person in his life where no matter what thought, feeling, idea he had, it was belittled, and he was made to feel wrong for having ideas and thinking outside of the box and whatever. And that person also took a lot of his anger out on him. And I, knowing that like I'm a big loud person, that's just who I am, I'm not quiet. And so when I have big feelings, they come out big, and it's like, and I've had to really learn, okay, that triggers him and that's just not going to do any of us any good. So learning to like give him the approach of to where I'm not triggering him. Now it's not my job to dance around his triggers, because that's also room for him to
Right.
grow. But
Right.
I can also do my side of things to approach him better to where he can receive it better. So like
Yes.
that's a huge thing too, is just like the only person you can change is yourself. And so I've had to learn a lot, like how I approach him has my mom, she's coached us through our entire relationship.
Savior. Shout out Kristen Brown.
Truly.
Shout out the one and only.
But she truly was like, I was a spicy girl. I still am. Like when I'm not feeling good, we call.
What did you say earlier?
The other day he goes, the other day I was having a bad day, and he goes, are you a hot mess today? And I was like, no, I'm a spicy twat. And he's like, just died. And I'm like, but that's truly like, so then that also gives him insight, like, oh, okay, she's spicy today. I just need to be more gentle with her or whatever, or
Yeah.
give her space.
And not
But
take it personally, right?
yes.
Recognizing that it's their own thing.
Yeah, but like I think the other thing is that learning to change yourself is that, I fought you so hard. I mean, it was like fighting fire, 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 fire. And it was like my mom was like, Sid, you gotta change your approach with him. I'm like, oh, and then the second I started to do that, I'm like, wow, he actually knows how to listen. I didn't know he knew how to listen. It was just because I just had to change my approach.
Mhm,
It was
mhm.
this whole new world. So it's also being willing to like adjust yourself and
Yeah.
seeing what that does for them. I
Yeah.
think that's a huge thing in any relationship in your life is like the only thing you can change is yourself. So try, okay, how would you normally do this? Maybe try it a different way, tweak it a little bit, maybe change your wording slightly,
Yep.
or
Yep.
instead of reacting immediately, go take 5 breaths in another room and then come back. Like there's so many things you can do to tweak it.
Yep.
And it helps so much.
And like to that point, like if you're having relationship troubles, you have to remember it's not one-sided.
Yeah.
It is a relationship. You guys make a
Yes.
so you need,
Yes.
which is really fucking hard for a lot of people to hear. Like, no, my partner is just a piece of shit, and it's like,
Well,
well, how?
especially when you've been hurt or something like that
Yeah,
too, right?
yes, which is understandable too. Like, I'm not saying like you have no room to do that, but it's like, hey, remember, you also have your side to it, regardless of what it is.
Yep.
Like, yes, some of it is worse than others, but like you have a side to it
Yep.
that you can personally change, and
Yes.
that can be literally the catalyst that changes the whole entire dynamic.
Yeah.
Like her softening herself, that literally was like one of the biggest things for us.
It made you feel safe.
It made me feel safe, and
Yes.
it burden. It made me feel like I didn't have to fucking defend myself till I died. Like,
Yep. Yep.
what
Yep. It didn't put you in that fight or flight place
Yeah.
because she
it
was not
allowed me
coming
to
from
then
her fight or
actually
flight place.
yes. And then it allowed me to actually hear and
Mhm.
not file away, hear it instantly, process it. I'm like, oh, that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Shoot, I'll do that tomorrow. Like, fuck,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Not, not like this. That's what now it's like, hey, let's do this together, and
Yeah.
That's
that's
beautiful.
a huge thing. Like you may be having like, oh, I'm speaking as a man. So like, I'm not saying one is over the other or whatever, but like, I hear a lot like, oh, my man's a piece of shit. Okay, well, what are you doing about his piece of shitness, and how are you approaching his piece of shitness? Because that could change all of it.
Yeah.
And same thing, and then as a man again, dude, my wife's fucking crazy. My wife, like, she's controlling. Like, okay, well, how are you approaching her on these things? How are you talking to her about these things? How do you react to these things? Because those are all just feelings that need to be heard, feelings that need to be talked through and like looked at. Everyone at the end of the day really just wants to be held. Like, we want to be held, we want to be heard, we want to be like honored, and like, hey, you matter, what you're saying matters. I'm just not receiving it. Can we find a different way? Or hey, you matter to me. I want to hear you, but I can't based off of how you're doing it. Can we find a way? Like, that's like the biggest thing and the hardest thing, because that's self. No one wants to look in the mirror and be like, oh, I have things to work on. It's
Yeah.
so much easier to be like, no, you, like, oh
It
no,
is.
no, like it's both of us. And yeah, so that's another piece of advice.
It's
It's a
beautiful.
it's a coin or a road, it's a two-way street, whatever you want to say. I like the coin because like a coin has two faces. It makes the whole
You
thing.
have to have both sides.
You
Yeah.
And
have to.
it's never going to have just one. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Everything you guys said is so on point, so fucking immaculate. And watching you guys go through your journey has been so inspiring, I think, for more people than you know, and on a level that's really, really serious. And I'm just so like, it gives me chills and makes me want to cry when I talk about it, because I'm like, you both have helped me through my experiences now. And like, I could not think of a better couple to represent resiliency in partnerships, because you guys have done the work, continue to do the work, maintain yourselves, maintain each other, and you are a togetherness. You are a oneness. You treat things like a team rather than one person against another. And the minute you do that one thing against another, that's when all of our defenses come out, because that's exactly what our brains and our nervous systems are supposed to do. I am in a position where I'm being challenged and I feel unsafe. Okay, here's all the ways that I make myself feel safe, right, wrong, or indifferent. But I really, really love that point too that you both made, in that you're learning and learning how you can adjust yourself to better approach various situations, learning that, or recognizing that your partner is still learning to do these new behaviors, to be more of themselves, to get out of the conditioning and programming that they've had placed on them, that ultimately requires compassion for yourself, recognizing I'm learning something and it's okay that I messed up because I took accountability for it and I'm recognizing it and I want to do better and I'm going to do better. But then also having the compassion for that person, the other person, saying, okay, I also have compassion that this hurt me and this is not okay and this is my boundary. But let's have compassion for the fact that we're trying to do this together. Like, we can do it if we choose to do it. And it's not an I against I thing. It's a we thing. It's in partnerships, and it's a oneness. And um, even that mentality, I think, is hard for some people to take on. It's like, well, I have needs and I have this. And it's like, well, and then it becomes like, well, whose needs are more important right now? Like, whose needs need to be shown up for first. And it just has to happen as honestly and genuinely as it can at the same time.
Yep.
But I seriously, seriously am so honored to hear more of your guys' story and to share it with an online community. And just I'm so proud of you guys and I love you both so much. I think you guys are just fucking badass human beings who, you guys just have such a beautiful life ahead of you. I can't wait for you to start making babies so that my babies can have friends. And it just I look at you guys and I don't know if it's probably that we're cosmically connected in a way, but I look at you guys and I literally see your whole life. And it's so good, you guys. It's so good. So I'm so happy for you and so proud of you and where you guys have come together.
Thank you for seeing us. We're
Yeah, thank you.
we're appreciative of you too, and you've had a very important part of our journey. I
Yes.
think both of us in different
Very much.
aspects of it you have helped us a lot through it.
Yes, hugely.
Yeah. Your meditations were a lifesaver for me for a long time.
Same, super same.
Yep.
They've really opened different sides of like third eyes and like just higher beings
Yeah.
through the meditation.
I think without your sessions with her, I don't think you would have ever been in tune as much as you are to your like
Yes,
your
100%.
your intuition and stuff.
And
Like
being able to like talk to
Yeah.
say wherever it may be for
Yeah.
me,
it played a huge role
like
in that.
huge role. Like the vision I swear I had inside of our meditation session was like, oh fuck, dude, this is real. Like, gotta keep doing it.
It,
Sick.
it is addicting. Yeah.
We do yoga and in Savasana at the end, he will have like visions almost at the end. And if I don't think if his time with you, you didn't help him cultivate, if he hadn't, you helped him cultivate that. And so I think that it's really cool now that you're like, oh my gosh, I had this vision, I had this thing. And it's like, if you hadn't had that time with her, that wouldn't been, you wouldn't been able to do that. Right. I think it really helped you bring you there, I guess.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's so sweet. Thank you for sharing that. That means so much to hear. And I'm so happy that I could just help you facilitate that part in yourself. Because again, we all have the ability to do the healing work and all have the ability to like touch into these, but sometimes we just need other people to like channel it, right? And I very much so remember during our sessions, Casey, that it was a big awakening for you in a lot of aspects. And I don't think it necessarily all happened in the session, but it was like
Right.
it kept coming out of you more and more. So I'm glad I could open that space in your heart and your mind and you too. Um, just just to hear that is like so honoring and like thank you and like compliments. It's just good. Um,
Cool, but it's also like to that point is like, you can do work in your relationship and all that, but there's so many different people in your lives are placed there for different reasons.
Yeah.
And like, if you are feeling drawn to that person, there's a reason. There's a,
Totally.
allow them to be, it's not just me and you. It's like
The community.
yeah.
Yeah.
Community
Our
is-
tribe.
Yeah.
Our tribe.
Absolutely. That's my favorite word.
I have
Well,
two quotes left.
please share them. We
Been
love them.
super helping me as like just a person recently.
Mhm.
First is don't pay your pain anymore. Make your pain pay you. It's time to turn that into your own currency.
Wow.
Make your pain pay you. Like that to me took a very long time to like, yeah, what the hell? Who cares? Make it pay. Yeah, I am gonna do this because of that. It doesn't define me. I'm gonna like turn that into my own wealth, not pay it anymore. And then the other one is like this one is super hard to actually look at, super hard to believe, super hard to feel, super hard to like grasp, but like everything is happening for you, not
Mhm.
to you. So
Yep.
yeah, does it feel shitty right now? Great. You know why? Because it's making you better.
Yep.
It's like refining you. Like it's happening for you.
Refinement. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those two quotes, like, love that shit.
I love quotes. I have like a whole thing on Pinterest of just quotes, and I'll just go through them when I'm having a hard day, and I'm like, yep, that's the one. That's my mantra today, whatever. So I love that you shared that. I think a lot of people can take a lot from a quote, right? Like there's a lot of connotations, but that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, thank you guys just so much for being on this podcast. I'm hopeful that you had a good time and that, you know, we could do this again sometime, maybe another topic. There's plenty of things you guys, all three of us and Josh in the future, hopefully could talk about. So just thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate
Just
it.
have your agents call my agents.
Okay.
Got it. Got it. I'll call your people. My people will call your people.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop recording now. I always forget how. There it is. Did I stop?